So it is not very surprising that we are talking about Sony yet again with the new One Angry Gamer article. I felt like we could go over it because it does have a lot of good valid points, and that is Sony CEO wants to adopt countermeasures to gaming addiction. We've seen so many problems lately with Sony talking about censorship and how they want censorship and how they follow their own guidelines now, and countermeasures to gaming addiction. Countermeasures meaning more things that are inaccessible, more things changed, and if you are someone that owns a PlayStation device and loves it, like I do, I love my PlayStation 4 Pro, this is just another setback for supporting Sony and really supporting who Sony was. Sony was a very good company. Sony in recent times has unfortunately become a little bit less amazing, but let's just start reading it. The article will be linked down below if you want to read over it yourself, but it starts off with, as if the PlayStation censorship policies weren't enough, Sony wants to add to the turmoil and distress of its already strained and sullen audience by introducing countermeasures to gaming addiction in response to the World Health Organization set to label video game addiction as an international disease. Now, I do want to point out that it's been talked about for a very long time, a couple of years now. Gaming has really been in the center of the World Health Organization and, you know, gaming addiction in general. And over the past 3 or 4 months, we've seen that start back up again, but gaming addiction has been talked about for a long time. It's not like a new subject or anything, but in the past, studies were shown that, yes, in specific age groups, the younger age groups, gaming addiction can become a very prominent thing, becoming, you know, addicted to playing games, to completing tasks and whatnot within games. But with adult age ranges, that actually is not the case, and it is actually very, very unlikely that someone would adopt a gaming addiction. So when we're talking about this, they're more talking about the younger audiences that come with gaming addiction and whatnot. So just kind of keep that in mind, that they've done a lot of studies, and adult age ranges, I believe it's like 25 or 30 and up, that it's very unlikely for it to happen. But under the ages of 25, it is a little bit more likely to happen, and it is prominent enough. So we have to keep that in mind. They quoted Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida, who told the press on May 22nd, 2019, "We need to take it seriously and adopt countermeasures. We've already implemented a rating system to restrict players by age and have been taking measures based on our own standards." And One Angry Gamer does go on to say what Yoshida is referencing with the Sony's own standards is the censorship policies they have been using to punish developers into censoring their games and removing content to fit the ideological standards Sony has set up beyond what's required by the regional ratings board. And that has happened, and it's been a very prominent problem. We've talked about it in, I think, 7 or 8 videos at this point, that Sony has come up with their own rating system and their own way to rate things, and they do it in a individual standpoint, meaning that they do not have a general policy, they do not have a general way that they look at games. They look at games on a case-by-case basis. I will have that video linked down below in case you want to hear more about that, but they have said before that they do look at things on a case-by-case basis, so anything could get judged differently. You could have 2 games that are almost identical, one could get accepted, one could get rejected, and that is something that we have been dealing with Sony lately. This has crippled some developers to the point where Kenichiro Takaki ended up departing from Marvelous due to the policies. Senran Kangura, in case you're not familiar with Marvelous. What's worse, though, is that we have no idea what these countermeasures are supposed to be. And that is exactly it. When all of the Sony reps, we have had 2 Sony representatives, and now the CEO of Sony, not explaining what these countermeasures are, not explaining what these policies are. No one is explaining what they require, what they tell developers, and even developers have said, well, they don't really tell us anything. We just kind of make our game, we send it in, and we hope that it's good enough, and if it's not, they send it back and tell us what to change. Developers need to stop giving into censorship like this. There are plenty of other platforms to put your game on. I understand in the case of something like Senran Kagura, their main audience is on the PlayStation 4, but they could easily switch to something like the Nintendo Switch that does not censor, that goes with what the ESRB or the Zero ratings are, and you change them into equivalency. They need to support other consoles that actually appreciate the work that they are doing, the companies that appreciate what they're doing, because you will always have a dedicated fan base that will go to whatever platform, and a lot of people that were supporting the PlayStation 4 when it came to Japanese or anime style games that have been receiving a lot of harsh censorship, they are looking into switching consoles. So you need to hold your ground as a developer, and people will follow because they see how you are respecting yourselves. Developers need to learn to respect themselves a little bit better. Continuing on, I wanted to touch on, most people do not even think that the World Health Organization adding video game addiction to the International Index of Diseases is warranted. The addition of gaming as an addiction was reportedly spurred on by South Korea and China. A lot of people do not feel like it is warranted because there are like I had said, age groups that do experience addictions a little bit easier, like children, because they do not understand how to kind of pace themselves. You know, you always hear about the jokes of a teenager stealing their parents' credit card to donate or to purchase things, and that is a problem, but that's more so on the parents to try to restrict their children in a way. And gaming addiction in the young age ranges that, you know, it is prominent in, parents should be able to kind of deal with that themselves, because unfortunately if a child does not have access to purchasing things, then addiction cannot happen. If you are an adult that is limiting the child to 4 hours or 3 hours of play a day, then that is easily restrictable. It is not like it is in adult age ranges that have access to purchase whatever they want, buy whatever they want. Yes, anyone is susceptible to something like addiction when it comes to their hobbies, but most adults can pace themselves, and if they cannot, they are in a small minority or a small percentage of people that cannot. And there are ways to treat addictions in any sort, whether it's video games, gambling, etc. They have to take precautions for themselves. Various scholars have written open letters rejecting the notion that gaming addiction needed to be added to the updated ICD-11 database, but who decided to move forward with it anyway? Yeah. We do not know exactly what Yoshida has planned for the PlayStation ecosystem, but countermeasures to prevent addiction are already a thing in South Korea and China in form of militarized rehabilitation camps to break teens and young adults from gaming and the internet. Unfortunately, you have to think of, in this case, China and South Korea are very different places from the United States. They see things a lot differently. They see addiction a lot differently. They see violence a lot differently. So you have to think of just the differences of where people live. But the point is that Sony is trying to kind of gatekeep again, trying to say, well, you know, we're just trying to make things better for the children, and we're trying to put countermeasures forward, and we're taking measurements based on our own standards. No one talks about what these standards are. No one is talking about what these measures based on their own standards are. We have no clue how they are going to actually add these countermeasures to gaming addiction. What are your countermeasures going to be? Your PlayStation only turns on for 2 hours a day? What are these countermeasures going to be is my main question here, and unfortunately we have no clue. And the article ends off with, Sony already has a parental control system in place, so I'm not sure how much further these countermeasures will go in curbing what Yoshida believes to be gaming addiction. But in connection with the already draconian censorship policies, there is absolutely nothing good coming out of more censorship and restrictions, and I 100% agree with this. They already have things like parental control systems in place. How much further can you go? You are censoring adult-rated games because you feel like it's affecting the children that cannot already purchase these games. What are you going to do? Make it so the PlayStation 5 only turns on for 4 hours a day or something like that? What is it? How far are you willing to go with these countermeasures? What sort of restrictions are they going to add next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please feel free to discuss them in the comments down below. Your thoughts on Sony and these countermeasures that they want to adopt to gaming addiction and try to help fight gaming addiction. There's not much more to say. Unfortunately, we do not know the measures that they're taking. We do not know what Sony's personal rating system is at this point, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. This was a very good article. I will be leaving a comment on it. Make sure to share it if you did enjoy the article, but I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys again really soon.